The Red Sea, an ocean like all others, after all. We're going to take a look at this. It's on the Jordan Rift Valley, where we just had a 5.4 earthquake a few hours ago. And we've had a lot of earthquake activity recently in this area. And this is also an area which has, of course, on both sides, magma. The rift valleys always have magma underneath. This is what causes the crust to stretch. It's the magma coming up from underneath. We're going to be looking at the Red Sea. I'm very concerned about this because this is where we had our 5.4 earthquake today. And this is Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt of the Sinai Peninsula, but that quake also shook southern Israel around here. This is the Gulf of Aqaba, this is the Red Sea. And if we look up here, this is, oh, sorry, it's zooming in very fast, okay. This is the Dead Sea, and this area here is around Jerusalem, the Dead Sea, and the Jordan River, as we know, is where the fault line goes through. And this is the Sea of Galilee, Tiberias. That is a volcanic crater lake. We have magma under there. We have a lot of hot spring baths in the area, hotels still there today. They were there established from the time of the Roman Empire and before that, all around the Sea of Galilee, because there's magma under there. The rift valleys are caused by magma stretching the earth's crust. Okay, so that's the area of Israel that we saw there, going down, Dead Sea, the Jordan River, emptying into the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea. This is a very, very unique place. It's supposed that the Israeli tribes during the time of Moses, after the Exodus, passed through in this area. We'll see what's going on there. It's very shallow and flanked into Arabia here, into the Jordan, and Mount Nebo is somewhere across from Jerusalem. Mount Nebo is just about over here, right there. Let's go in more. That height right there. Okay, what is that church there? We don't know. Okay. Anyway, the Mount Nebo is around here, just across from Jerusalem. So when Moses was standing there, you'll see that in one of my previous videos today. He was able to see from that height, from the north all the way to the south of the Promised Land. But now we're going into this area here. Let's go into this, see how shallow that is. Of course, that was at one time connected. And because of the Rift Valley, the Red Sea here, at this section of it, this is an area of a lot of shipwrecks as well that are still in there rusting today. But look at that. Okay. I don't know how deep those, they look like sandbars, whatever, but you can see that it's under the water. It's under the water, okay? And we don't know how that was affected about 1600 BC when the tribes of Israel were crossing over. It could be that because of the stiff wind that blew, that took them across, we don't know. But God is able to do anything he wishes. But you can see this thing goes all the way across to, let's pull out again so you don't get very, oh, what's that there? There's something there. Well, definitely those are building. I don't know if they're underwater, but they are underwater buildings. Look at that. When were those made? Are those ancient or what? Are they sunken? It looks like they're underwater. Okay, those are definitely buildings. Okay, and there we go. That just goes across there. We don't know how much elevation they had about 3,500 years ago when they crossed over to this area. Now we've had a lot of big quakes as well in this area, and we know that there is a lot of, when you have areas of sand like this, there could be a lot of liquefaction going on when you have water and sand in that area. But anyway, let's go into our discussion of our Red Sea geologically. This is on phys.org. Actually, the Red Sea is an ideal study object for marine geologists. They can observe the formation of an ocean in its early phase. But the Red Sea seemed to go through a different birthing process than other oceans. Now scientists at the Geomar Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research, Kiel, and King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah were able to show that salt glaciers have distorted the previous models. The study was just published in the International Journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters. Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Ocean were the land masses of the Americas, Europe, and Asia, Africa, and Australia in between. That's how we know our Earth from a geologist's point of view. But this is only a snapshot. Over the course of Earth's history, many different continents have formed and split again. In between, oceans were created. New seafloors formed and disappeared again. Plate tectonics is the generic term for these processes. The Red Sea, where currently the Arabian Peninsula separates from Africa, is one of the few places on Earth where the splitting of a continent and the emerging of the ocean can be observed. During a 3-year joint project, the Jeddah Transect Project, or JTP, researchers at Geomar Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research, Kiel, and the King Abdulaziz University, KAU, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, have taken a close look at this crack in the Earth's crust by means of seabed mapping, sampling, and magnetic modeling. Quote, the findings have shed new light on the early stages of the oceanic basins, and they specifically changed the school of thought on the Red Sea. This is what Dr. Nico Augustine from Geomar, lead author of the study, says. It has now been published in the scientific journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters. It is and was undisputed that a continent is stretched and thinned out by volcanic activity before it ruptures at a new ocean base, and a new ocean base is formed. This is what happens at rift valleys. The rifting occurs where the greatest stretching takes place. But the detailed processes during the breakup are debated in research. On the one hand, one needs to better understand the dynamics of our home planet. On the other hand, most marine oil and gas resources are located near such former fracture zones. This research can therefore also have economic and potential political implications, says Professor Colin Davey of Geomar, who is the co-author of the study. Until now, conventional knowledge said that a continent is breaking apart more or less simultaneously along an entire line, and the ocean basis is formed all at once. The Red Sea, however, did not fit into this picture. Here, a model was favored with several smaller fracture zones lined up one after the other that would unite gradually, which in turn would lead to a relatively slow emergence of the ocean during a long transition phase. Augustine says our studies showed that the Red Sea is not an exception, but that it takes its place in line with other ocean basins. The previous picture we had of the ocean floor in the Red Sea was simply corrupted by salt glaciers. The volcanic rocks we recovered are similar to those from other normal mid-ocean ridges. This is what the co-author Furje van der Zwaan, working on her PhD as part of the JTP, says. During the early formation stages of the Red Sea, the area was covered by very shallow sea that dried up repeatedly. Oh, so there we go. Okay, the early formation stages of the Red Sea. Okay, can we note that for future references to the passage of Israel across from the Strait of Aqaba? The area was covered by shallow sea that dried up repeatedly. This created thick salt deposits that later only broke apart with the continental crust. Over geologic time period, salt shows tar-like behavior and it begins to flow. Quote, our new high-resolution seabed maps and magnetic modeling show that the kilometer-thick salt deposits after the breakup of the Arabian Plate from Africa flowed like glaciers towards the newly created trench and thus over the oceanic crust due to gravity, says Augustine. Since these submarine salt glaciers do not cover the rifting zone uniformly over the entire length, the impression of several small fracture zones was created. The consequences of this discovery are profound. For one, there really seems to be only one single mechanism worldwide for the dispersion of a continent. And secondly, this is not yet known how much ocean crust is covered by salt. This questions the previous dating of the opening of the Red Sea. In addition, the volcanically active trench rift zone in the Red Sea, surrounded by salt glaciers, is host of a giant sink filled with a very hot and very salty solution. Hot and salty, can you imagine? Quote, since the sediment in the salt solution is rich in metals, this so-called Atlantis too deep is also of economic interest, says co-author DeVee. It's quite conceivable that over the course of the Earth's history, similar deposits associated with volcanism and salt deposits were created during the opening phase of other oceans. Thus, our studies help to clarify older research questions, but they also provide starting points for new investigations in all of the oceans, says Augustine. We have salt deposits in the Gulf of Mexico, too. A lot of those salt caverns is where they have the U.S. Oil reservoirs. They use those salt caverns, those salt deposits, as in order to keep the reservoir of crude oil as an emergency deposit for the U.S. to use. So this is amazing. Slow-moving salt deposits. Amazing. And of course, the fact that the Red Sea could have been much, much shallower and even drier at various points in time. This is amazing. This is on phys.org. Please leave your comments. Thank you. So reverting back again to Sharm el-Sheikh and this area of very shallow water and a lot of shipwrecks. What happened about 1600 BC? Well, the geologists told us that this at that time very, very frequently was shallow and even dried up. So it could be that this area especially could have been one connected landmass. Just for the sake of curiosity and for, let's go back to miles, and for future reference, let's see how close this is. Let's say from here to, okay, here to, oh, I made a mistake. Again, from here to here, let's say, 4 miles. If we go to here, 1 mile. Okay? Now, it could be that this area at one time was much more shallow, even dried up at some point. If you look at that, it could have been connected very easily, depending on the winds, of course, as well, into this area here. Okay, please leave your comments. I think this is fascinating to have learned. Thank you for your support. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.